Hello. Is that an imperfect person I see? Yes, it is. I'm also one. I can recognize you anywhere. Today we're going to be talking about ways that you can make living with your cat a little bit more sustainable. Specifically today, we'll be focusing on enrichment and focusing on how you can ensure that your cat is enriched in its daily life whilst also reducing its impact on the world around you. The biggest topic of today, we're going to be focusing on indoor versus outdoor cats. I will get into it a little bit later, but I will preface this now. Probably going to make a few people mad. And I welcome that. I welcome other opinion. I welcome your take on this topic. You don't have to listen to anything I say. I'm just a random girl on the internet rambling on about her cats and sustainability. You can do whatever you want. You have free will. Live your own life. However, I still have opinions and I'm going to share them today. So I hope that you can take something away today. And if I make you mad or you agree with me or whatever, leave a comment. I would love to know how your opinion is opposed to mine. I'm trying to grow my awareness, and if I've missed any information that you would really like to learn about, please let me know as well. Yeah, today we're focusing on indoor versus outdoor cats, as well as their general enrichment and different ways that you can make a cat's enrichment more sustainable in your day-to-day life, and different ways that you can think about how to approach their enrichment whilst also being sustainable. I don't know if that's been hitting the mic the whole time. It's a little rice bag, love. Oh, sorry, it's an edamame bag. It actually says ramen, like that says ramen, and that says soy sauce. It's a shame I can't read kanji very well. So today we're going to be focusing on enrichment, and one of the tasks that I am tasking myself with is tackling refitting a scratching post to my cat's cat tree. I spent a lot of money on this really nice cat tree from Pet Barn. I believe it is acacia wood from Cat It. The post just like all cat scratches die really quickly, and so I'm wanting to find a more sustainable solution, and so hence the logs, and I will show you that process as I go through it. Yeah, let's jump into it. All right. Okay, so we're talking about indoor versus outdoor cats. As a general rule of thumb, especially in Australia, it's indoor only. And I say this from a place of I would love to let my cats roam around outside. Suki loves being out in the sun. But when you think about the sheer impact that outdoor cats have on native wildlife, especially in Australia, there is a real problem with people just allowing them to sort of roam around freely as they'd like. Oops. Right. That might be a bit of a problem. And as well, like if you live in an area that might have larger predators that cats can't particularly impact the local ecosystem as much, then I can't imagine a place that would be like. But there might be an opportunity for you to allow your cats outside and roam freely. Generally speaking, I'm always an indoor cat kind of girl. Let me just zoom in on you because you're a little bit far away. But generally speaking, free-to-roam cats are actually more common to encounter pests and disease, hazards and risks. And so as a cat owner, I feel like you are allowing your cat to be more exposed to harmful risks and things that it can potentially die from. You wouldn't let a dog just kind of roam the streets, so why would you allow your cat to do that? I've had many arguments with friends over the years about like whether they should keep their cats indoors. Not arguments, but just discussions, because I'm always curious as to sort of what the thought process is. 9 times out of 10, it's just that they have always had outdoor cats, and so they can't really imagine a cat staying indoors. And so I've sort of, brought up the idea of, well, you're going to have to take them to the vet more. They're more likely to get hit by cars. And there's also the factor of, there are people out there who don't like cats. And there are many stories I've heard about people's cats going missing. And then there's some creepy ass dude who's catching any cat that goes in his backyard and like locking them in barrels and torturing them. And just like doing icky, yucky things to these poor animals who we as owners of these animals should have more responsibility for. When I adopted my cats, it was strictly indoor only, and that did not bother me at all. I've always had dogs, and sure, like the dogs go out in the backyard, but I give them enough things to do inside, or I'll mention and talk about, like I let them out on leads to go wander around in the backyard. I have known friends with cats my whole life. My friends' cats have almost always been outdoors. And I think this kind of fed into the reason why I wasn't a huge cat person, because every time I would be interested in spending time with the cat or meeting the cat or snuggling with it and cuddling it and whatever, they were just not interested. Their rejection of my attempts to interact with them made me dislike them and not really want to bother. Whereas if they had dogs, the dogs would, come straight up to you and always ask for pets. So yeah, that's kind of, I think, what indicated whether or not I liked cats versus dog. Then when I adopted my cats, I got indoor cats. And having an indoor cat, you're interacting with them more. They're relying on you more for entertainment, for play and feeding them and, making sure things are clean. And generally, I've developed such a better relationship with my cats because I'm spending more time with them indoors. As I kind of mentioned, this doesn't mean that I don't let them outside. When I was living in my tiny house in Brisbane, which I posted a sort of a curated home video of what that was like with my two cats, and you can see Naga in that video as well. And we really enjoyed letting the cats out on the leads. We were in a tiny house. It was kind of cruel to just allow them to, I guess, be inside in this teeny tiny little cramped space. It was cruel for us to be in that teeny tiny cramped space that hadn't been designed by us for us. We had these sort of 10-foot leads and we would let them out and we would, under strict supervision, we would always watch where they were going. But the tiny house was in a very pristine part of Queensland native bush. And so if I was just letting my cats out to roam, then there was a big issue around them hunting the wildlife and the native species that lived in that area. Cats are natural born predators. They are designed to prey on smaller animals and succeed pretty much every time. Cats' hunting activities have created kind of a big problem for our native marsupials and birds that used to fill our backyards. Losing these certain species can destroy entire ecosystems, creating mayhem in our natural world. And then there's the humans. We're pretty notorious for not treating our animals very well, and stray cats are kind of a massive cause of loss of natural ecosystems. Cats that have been abandoned are pretty quick to going back to their feral state. If a kitten isn't domesticated within that sort of 2 to 7 week range within the beginning of their life, they kind of stay feral for the rest of our lives and don't become domesticated like all the cats that we kind of know. Stray and feral cats are a massive problem for Australia and I'm sure in other ecosystems around the world. Because they are such prolific hunters, it causes such an issue for the Australian native animals that aren't used to having these types of predators around them. The native marsupials in Australia haven't developed the genes to be able to be wary of big scary cat thing coming for them in the middle of the night. That's really not a good thing. And the fact that more cat owners don't really consider this when they just sort of allow their cats to roam outside is kind of wild to me. We've got these beautiful little creatures in our lives, but they are also prolific predators and they are horrific to the Australian native ecosystems, especially feral cats and pets that become abandoned and end up living in the wild are the big issue in terms of biodiversity loss. But we as humans are perpetuating that cycle by either buying a pet that we can't eventually care for or allowing them to breed, and then there's unnecessary number of kittens that also don't have homes to go to, or we allow them to roam freely outside and they end up breeding with other cats in the area or whatever. So first and foremost, desex your cats. I think that's a pretty big one. Just desex them. You don't need to breed cats. There are plenty of cats in the world for people to purchase and adopt, so you do not need to be breeding cats. Other options that you can consider if you want to considering getting a cat, and I'm not even really going to touch on how to have sustainable outdoor cats because it just, I personally can't see how allowing your cat to roam the streets is a sustainable way for their life to be prolonged and to reduce the impact you have on the world around you. So if you disagree with me, please let me know. I would love to hear other opinions. This is just my opinion. You don't have to listen to anything I have to say. The biggest issue I've kind of had with my indoor cats is when I'm living in sort of a larger space. And so, I'm living at my parents' house at the moment and there's sort of two, it's like a U shape. It's the kind of two little wings. Suki is a Queenslander cat and she needs sunshine. She needs to bask in the warmth and sunshine for many hours of the day. Otherwise she gets in a really weird and grumpy mood. Like, it's so strange when she is like meowing and just like being generally annoying. When you put her out in some sunshine and let her enjoy it, she's suddenly a happy little girl and just wants to snuggle and cuddle up and is very peaceful and calm. So I have to let Suki bask in some sun, otherwise she's a grumpy cat. And because I live in a west wing with no windows on the northern or southern side, the only sun I get is a little bit of sun directly through my bedroom window in the earlier morning, in the afternoon through my office right next to my computer, and that's it. And so I let her outside. I don't let her outside to just like go off and have fun. I have a little lead. I'll sit outside with her, or in this patio area that I'm sitting right now, I can put all the blinds down, the sun still comes through, and she can sit out and enjoy the sunshine and be a bit warmer. So she can still enjoy different environments and still enjoy the benefits of coming outside. One of my favorite ways to bond with Suki, Calby's not so interested in going outside unless I'm like out there with him. Suki loves just like wandering around and sniffing all the plants and the dirt and whatever, and especially rolling around in dog pee, but that's another story entirely. So I'll put Suki on a really long piece of string, tie it on her collar, and then we'll go for a walk around the garden. And you know, sometimes I'll just sort of tie her to a tree and sit here and read a book, and she'll wander around, and it's delightful. We have a great time. But she's not killing any native wildlife. All the birds still live here and they're still nesting here. There's a willy wagtail in that fig tree that yells at her every other day that we're walking around, which is fair enough, they're nesting. She also gets the sunshine and the outdoor time that she would love without impacting the native ecosystem that I live in. And so I'm being responsible as a cat owner, and my cat is not impacting the world in a negative way. Bonus. If you don't have the luxury of just kind of sitting around and supervising your cats for a few hours while they're out on their sort of 10-foot leads, you know, there are other options. Catios are a thing. Once I buy my own house, I'm probably going to set up a little portion of a backyard or, you know, patio or whatever it is as a catio, because I really value allowing my cats to go outside and enjoy themselves without being restricted by a lead. But I haven't figured out how to do that without the lead involved at the moment because of my current living situation. But when I buy my house, having a catio that, you know, they can climb up, and I will decorate it really fun, and I'll have lots of, you know, cat grass and catnip and lots of different interesting interactive things for them to enjoy. They can watch birds, you know, that type of thing. I want to give my cats that because I think they would love it and they would enjoy it. And I also want a space where I can sit with them in that catio. You know, I enjoy being outside with my cats. I enjoy sitting in the sun. I want to spend time with my cats in the same way that they want to spend time doing the things that they... Anyway, you get what I mean. Patios are a thing. There's different options. There's those weird little things that you can put on the tops of fences that are like, they spin. And so if a cat tries to jump up on the fence, it like spins, and so they fall back in. I don't know how effective those are, but I've sort of pretty basically looked into them, and they look pretty good. If you're still wanting to allow your cat to go outside but didn't want them to sort of go and roaming off around the streets, I think they can be very expensive is the only thing. So just keep that in mind. It's an option. It's an option. When I tried to teach them to walk on like harnesses and leads, this was back when I lived in Brisbane in a little apartment. I missed that window. You kind of have to teach your cats to walk on harnesses really early on in their life, and that's just is how it is, and that's okay. I missed that boat, and I gave it a go, and my cats were not into it. Maybe they would have gotten used to it, and maybe I should have kept it up, but we did what we needed to. Now, don't get me wrong, when I was living in my tiny house and even here with Suki, it was pretty annoying having to untangle them all the time, having to crawl into really tiny spaces. I had to crawl through the bramble bush multiple times to help Naga escape from how he'd sort of wound himself up in this little spiky bush. It was annoying, and I did get frustrated, and it wasn't the most optimal of situations to have to crawl under our giant balcony, face all the snakes and spiders that were under there just to pull my little Naga out. And it's the same with Suki here. Like, she'll go under all the chairs and she'll wrap herself up and around, and then she'll get stuck and just sort of stand there and be like, please let me go. It's not optimal, but I'm also happier with living with my cats because they are able to enjoy outdoors without impacting the ecosystems around me in a really negative way. So I feel like as cat owners, that's kind of your responsibility. And even if you aren't particularly interested in sustainability, even if you aren't particularly interested in the sustainability of living with cats and like trying to reduce your impact or whatever, you still have a responsibility as a cat owner to ensure that the safety of those around you, because, you know, cats that wander all have different types of personalities. But then there's the other side of the coin where it's like you also have a responsibility to reduce the amount of hazards that your cat is introduced to. And this is not just in your home, but if you're letting them roam around outside, you know, they're getting introduced to pests and disease and cars. And it's just, I can never comprehend how a pet owner is like,
yeah, I just let them go off and do whatever they want. That's fine. They want that.
and it's like, yes, but you are still responsible. Like, you wouldn't let a child just like go off and wander by themselves. You know, like it's a surprise to me. It's a shock to me. Sure, cats have really good instincts and will always come home. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they do get hit by a car. Sometimes they do eat something stupid. Sometimes they do get in trouble with other cats or a dog or whatever. And I would never want to risk my cat's lives just because I feel like they have a right to wander around outside by themselves. Anyway, I will also say there was one time when I was with Naga at the tiny house and he did kill a bird. He was on his lead, his 10-foot lead. I went inside for some reason and I came back out and there were feathers all over the floor. And I was like, who did this? How did you do this? And Naga's just sort of sitting there like, and I was like, Naga, first of all, how? Your little legs? Surely not. Second of all, what the hell? You're on a lead. Like, and he has his bell on his collar and it's just, anyway. So this poor little baby, I think it was a mourning dove, was the only bird my cats have ever killed. And that was purely because of my own stupidity. They never killed anything other than that. So I don't know, like it seems to work and I'm pretty happy with the low impact way that I'm living with my cats. So many videos out there, there's so much information out there on how impactful outdoor cats actually are. And I think like the general consensus in most public forums is like, don't let your cat just like wander around outdoors. But there's still quite a lot of people who do. And if you are one of those people, I would love to know why and what you feel you are doing for your cat by allowing them to sort of roam around freely. Would you allow a dog to do the same thing? Would you allow your child to do the same thing? You know, a bunny, whatever. Like, what is the purpose of why you allow your cat to do that? And I can already hear the comments being like,
well, they know how to come home.
Apart from that, okay, anything else in terms of the impact they have, the impact the world has on them, you know, their safety, their health, I would love to know. I'm curious. It's no judgment. I want more opinions. I want more insight into why people would want to allow their cats to do that. So if you are willing to share, I would love you to do so. Alrighty, let me get back to trying to adjust this cat tree. I don't really know how I'm going to be getting this off, so I guess just cutting it. I need to get these out and see if I can reattach them somehow to the paper bark tree. Okay, so we've spoken about kind of the indoor versus outdoor debacle, and that's a pretty big topic. A big part of letting your cats outdoors, I feel, is the enrichment side of things. And if you don't adequately, oh, there's lots of staples in here I just saw. That's annoying. If you don't have adequate amount of enrichment for your cats, if they are indoor cats, then they're going to get depressed, they're going to have shitty lives, and they're going to be a bit sad about it. What we're kind of going to talk about now is you've decided to have an indoor cat, and that's fantastic, and I'm very excited for you. If you are then going to go and buy things that are to enrich their lives for being in, like if you're keeping them indoors, let's talk about how those things that you purchase or make or whatever can potentially impact the world around you as well, and how you can make more sustainable choices when wanting to get cat products for enrichment specifically. So I'm a big advocate for natural toys. I think it was on Hjordy's Bed and Breakfast when it was on Netflix at that point in time. She has like 5 dogs and 3 cats or something like that. At one point, someone buys the cats these natural toys. I've never seen anything like that in Australia. The staples are like all the way through that. Can you see that? That's kind of wild. I really wanted to try and find these things, but I couldn't find them anywhere. And so I ended up going on Amazon and I bought I think it was a 4-pack. Silvervine, is that right? I can't remember the name of it now, but I'll put a link here, and this is kind of what they look like. And so it's like a stick with like a little natural ball with some like straw on the end. And my cats absolutely friggin' love them. Obviously they have that particular plant smell that's like a catnip. They just absolutely go ham on these things, especially Suki. There's those, I really like those. I think they're awesome. Let's see if the pliers are gonna get these out. There's other options for cat toys as well. I know it's really tempting to go out and buy the super cute cat toys that kind of exist that are made from polyester and have like crinkly plastic inside. And don't get me wrong, I fall a sucker to these as well. I was recently at Costco and they had a like big pack of sushi little cat toys. I'll show them. I would put a clip in. Sushi cat toys on sticks. And I just thought they were the freaking cutest things ever. And so I had to buy, I bought that, and it spent probably way too much money, but I love them. They're so cute. So, you know, I'm not perfect. As I always say, I'm not a perfect person. I'm never going to, you know, berate you for doing things that I'm kind of recommending that aren't that sustainable, because I do those things too, but just being conscious of them is better than nothing. In terms of other enrichment ideas, one of the biggest ones for me, and this is kind of what I'm working on right now, is cat trees. Cat trees and scratching posts and, you know, all these other, man, this is gonna be difficult to get out, huh? Ooh. Cat trees and scratching posts, they are usually pretty crap. They're not very well made and are usually made from like polyester carpets and, you know, obviously there's the sea sole and the jute rope stuff, this stuff. It just breaks, and my cats scratch a lot, and so when they don't have their scratching post, they're scratching my couch. So I always try to ensure that I have a scratching post available for them, but the biggest issue is that the scratching posts don't come with replaceable scratching pads or whatever. Like, you have to really go out of your way to try to replace any of the materials that are on a scratching post to bring it back to life. Like this one, you know, look how much material's still on there. But for me to get it back on, I'd essentially have to either sit there and glue it all, which I don't particularly want to put glue under my cat's nails, or I have to nail it back on like they have up here where they've got these little nails in here, but then that could also get my cat's nails caught in them too. And so it's like all this material just kind of gets fucking wasted. I've spent quite a lot of money either just straight up replacing them and just buying brand new ones, which I think is really dumb. And then I came up with this idea. I had spent quite a bit of money on that cat scratching bed post thingy. And it's a really nice, like, I think it's acacia wood, and it's like, it's really clean. It looks really pretty. But I really don't like those all carpet cat bed things that get covered in hair. They always look girl to me. When that seesaw ended up wasting away, I was like, okay, well, what can I do to replace this? And something that I've always really wanted to do was set up more sort of like natural wood trees for my cats to interact with, because when they're outside, they actually enjoy scratching up on tree trunks and branches and stuff. So what I thought was I could actually just replace this entire thing with just a big branch that my cats can end up scratching with, like a soft wood. And so Raz, my delightful partner, decided that he would find some branches and he's cut them down to size, and I just need to install them. And so that's what I'm going to do. Learning to set up enrichment for your cats really isn't that difficult. It's just a matter of like having extra thought around, okay, can I make this in a more, can I allow them to have this enrichment in a more natural way? Yeah, sure. It's taking me a little while and it's kind of annoying to try to get all of these nails out of this stupid little thing. But at the same time, I know my cats are going to love it, and I am still using that ridiculously expensive cat tree that I spent way too much money on. And it's going to look cute as hell. So yeah, it's just a matter of thinking about it. But generally speaking, it's similar to what I said in the shopping video. Just think about like what the material is made out of, what who the company is that you're giving the money to, because that's a big one as well, and where your money's going and how you're voting with it. I think a lot of us just buy what's convenient, and that's fine. But if you have the time and the energy and the capacity to, like, think about how you're spending your money, what you're spending it on, and then maybe just spend a little bit extra time doing things in a slightly more sustainable way. You know, making use of things that are otherwise not gonna get used again. Like the amount of cat trees that I see get absolutely trashed and then thrown out, and that like the rest of the materials of it are fine. It's just that it's not, the scratching post is gone, and so it kind of renders it useless, which is very dumb. You could potentially look at is like, just look for, if you don't want to make these yourself like I'm doing, you can find natural stuff online. Being online, it gives you a better opportunity to actually do that research straight up of the company that you're buying from. Yeah, you like should be able to find something that suits you, suits your budget, and suits generally like what you're trying to achieve in the sustainable way that you're trying to bring up your cat. A really fun thing that I've started doing for my cat's toys, my mum bought my cats over in Brisbane 2 little toys from like a local market, not in Brisbane, in Canberra, a local market, and they were little felt toys. One was like a carrot and one was something else. Suki specifically went bananas over this felt toy. She never goes for toys usually unless they're on a stick, and she went bananas over this felt toy. And then I had a friend gift me for my birthday one year a felting kit, and so I've started making my cats toys out of felt, and they friggin' love them. And if I'm out and about at markets and things, there's usually local makers who create little tiny felt toys and sell them, and so I'll buy them for my cats, and it's just like 90% of the time it's pure wool. Sometimes they're acrylic, and that's just is what it is. Gives my cats the enrichment that they need without going out and buying something brand new or buying something that's made from plastic or made by a huge conglomerate that the money's not going to anyone, good in this world. There's so many options out there, and there's so many ways that you can, I guess, support your cat's well-being whilst also trying to be sustainable, especially in terms of their enrichment, because that's where you can kind of get creative and be fun and make it fun. You see those people who put these like huge trees like all up the walls of their houses for their cats to go and climb on, and like whilst I can't do that and I don't particularly ever want to do that in my house, like I want to give them something. They deserve it. They're the sweetest little beans and they love me unconditionally, so I'm very lucky. You actually spending time with them and like playing with them is so important. Bond with your cats, make a relationship with them. It's kind of uncommon, I think, in this day and age, and like it's starting to get more common because of the indoor cat preference. But yeah, make a relationship with your cat. Your cat doesn't have to be aloof. It can actually just enjoy spending time with you. Whenever I'm in my room, my cats will come and hang out with me because they like hanging out with me. So yeah, just like start thinking about ways that, you might enrich your cats. It might be with catnip or, cat grass, and you just have little pots of it around the house. It gives them something to chew on. It gives them something to sniff and like something interesting to do. Introduce your cats to different things. They'll appreciate it, trust me. I'm gonna keep going on this, and I will check back in, hopefully have a bit more progress on this cat tree, because I've only done one part of it. I've still got another part on the bottom of this, so wish me luck. Alrighty, let's try and get this attached, shall we? That looks about right.
What is it?
Well, that was exciting. It's too hard. I don't have great power tool skills, so I just made do with what I could. We touched on a little bit about I guess, enrichment of cats and different ways that you can make it more sustainable. One of the main ways, just try to avoid things that are plastic. I mean, that's what I focus on, so that's obviously what I'm going to talk about. But I'd love to know if you have any particular suggestions, to leave them down in comments below. I want this community to be sharing things with everybody and making sure that everybody feels like they can gain as much information as possible. I don't hold all the information. I am an imperfect person, so I can only give you so much, and I recognize that I'm not an expert on every single topic that I'm going to talk about. So I will leave that to my community to sort of fill in any blanks that I've particularly missed on. I've tried to be as thorough as possible. The other thing was obviously the indoor versus outdoor, and I guess the biggest thing that we want to focus on is put your cats inside, please. Please put them inside. That's all I ask. The poor native animals, like especially in Australia, stray cats, even not stray cats, just your cat that wanders around your backyard, like the native birds, the native marsupials that live in the area. Not that in most suburban areas they don't really live there anymore because they've all kind of been chased out already by the cats. But we want native flora and fauna to thrive, and if our cats are impacting that in a really negative way, we should kind of fix that. We should stop that. I want to see more bandicoots. I want to see more, numbats. Can you imagine seeing numbats in your backyard? Oh my gosh, I would die. And obviously there's the sustainability of your cat's health as well. Like if you're putting your cat outside, they're introduced to more dangers, more hazards, more general risks. And so why do that? Why do that to them? The poor things. Keep them indoors, enrich them as much as possible, buy them cat grass, buy them catnip. Keeping a plant alive isn't that hard if you can keep a cat alive. Do creative little fun things like I do. Make felt little toys for your cats. Redo their cat trees. If you don't have the time to do those things, go out and find them. There are makers out there who do them. It might cost a little bit more, but if you don't have the time, then that kind of is where your money should be spent, is on things that are going to last you a lot longer. And realistically, that cat tree that I originally bought cost me $120, and that scratching post lasted maybe a year. I bought it last year, and I've had to restring it like 3 or 4 times. So, and when I open it up, it is literally just like a cardboard tube with wire, like rope wrapped around it. There's no reason it should be so expensive, and it should be a lot easier to replace. I think that's the biggest thing for me that's going to bother me about cat trees forever and over and over. The things when they break aren't easy to replace, especially like it's a perfectly well-made cat tree with a scratching post that is intended to be ruined over time. The replacement should be easy to come by. I digress. I just want to thank you so much for joining me today. I've been meaning to do it forever, and Raz got me those logs of wood friggin' like 2 months ago. So, and if you find yourself coming back on the regular, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a like or a comment down below, or I don't know, subscribe. It just kind of helps the channel out, and I'm hopefully on my way to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so any little bit helps. And I'm always wanting more imperfect people out here doing the best that they can with their means and their abilities. And I will see you next time, and have a really good day. Bye guys.